Okay, let's unpack this. The world of AI, it feels like it's changing constantly, like not just week by week, but almost daily.
It really is. Just this constant stream of announcements, data,
Yeah,
headlines.
and trying to cut through all that noise, figure out what actually matters, it can feel, well, pretty impossible sometimes.
Exactly. And that's really why we're doing this deep dive for you today. Our mission really is to take these specific sources you shared and pull out the really important recent developments.
Right. The stuff about actual AI progress
Yeah.
and how it's being adopted. Or not adopted, maybe.
Both sides, yeah. Because we've got sources here looking at the cutting edge, like new features rolling out from a major player,
Mm.
but also some really telling data about the reality, the challenges of actually implementing this stuff in the real world, plus some big business metrics.
So the goal is to kind of stitch these pieces together for you.
Yeah.
Highlight what seems genuinely significant when you see it all laid out.
And hopefully give you a clearer picture of where AI is actually heading, like right now.
Absolutely. So let's jump right in. What's really standing out from the sources?
Yeah.
Maybe start with those big Apple WWDC announcements.
Yeah. Okay. The first one that seems pretty significant is this live translation feature.
Right. Integrated directly into their main communication apps.
Exactly. That's the interesting part where they're putting it. It's not some separate app. It's woven right into messages, FaceTime, even regular phone calls.
So it becomes part of how you already talk to people.
Making it fundamental, yeah. Leslie Ikamoto was quoted saying, live translation can translate conversation on the fly.
On the fly. That feels like a pretty big step, especially for accessibility, just global communication generally.
And they really hammered the privacy point, too, mentioning it's enabled by Apple-built models that run entirely on your device.
On device.
So your personal
Understood.
conversations stay personal. That on-device processing is a huge selling point for them, trying to build that trust.
Mm-hmm. So how does it actually work? Like in messages versus a phone call? What did the sources say?
Okay, so in messages, it's automatic text translation. You type, it translates. You receive, it translates.
Simple enough.
For FaceTime, it's live captions during the video call. And for a normal phone call, which is maybe the most interesting bit,
Yeah.
it apparently translates what you say out loud for the other person, and then you hear a spoken translation of their reply. And this works even if they don't have an iPhone.
Wow. Okay. That's quite ambitious. And developers can use this too.
They can. There's a new API, so other communication apps could potentially build this in.
Got it. But one thing missing.
Yeah, the sources noted they didn't actually say how many languages will be supported initially. We'll have to wait and see on that.
Okay. So that's AI getting embedded right into basic communication.
Let's shift slightly. The sources also highlighted another big Apple update, the Shortcuts app getting a major AI boost.
Right. This feels like where Apple Intelligence could, really empower users to automate stuff.
Yeah.
The big change is Shortcuts can now tap directly into Apple Intelligence, which means developers get access to that on-device LLM, the sort of AI brain on the phone, and also use private compute, which is Apple's way of handling trickier AI tasks securely off-device, but still privately.
Exactly. And the sources gave a good example, like a student using AI through Shortcuts to, say, compare lecture transcriptions with their notes and automatically pull out points they missed, using AI for that kind of personalized productivity boost.
That's pretty neat. And it can even call out to ChatGPT for more complex stuff.
Yeah, it can apparently incorporate responses from ChatGPT back into a shortcut workflow. So you could build these quite complex multi-step AI automations.
And they introduce these things called intelligent actions.
Right. New shortcut types built on Apple Intelligence. Examples were like using the writing tools to summarize text within a shortcut, or using Image Playground to create an image as part of an automated flow.
And this stuff is rolling out for testing, like now.
Starting this week, yeah. Which feels, well, significant, doesn't it? Especially when you think about how long we've waited for a deeper Siri AI upgrade.
Right. Could this be kind of a stopgap, putting powerful AI tools in users' hands via shortcuts while the main Siri stuff catches up?
Absolutely could be. It uses an existing tool, Shortcuts, which, let's be honest, can be a bit complex.
Yeah.
But this AI integration might actually broaden its appeal. The sources suggest it could make shortcuts easier for the less technically inclined.
People who maybe avoided it before because it looked too much like coding.
Exactly. If AI can help build or just run these workflows more easily, maybe more people will actually use it for automation.
And you see the potential when you look at what people already use shortcuts for. according to the sources.
Yeah, that list was interesting. Custom memes, GIFs, meeting notes, time tracking, making playlists, saving PDFs, finding where a photo was taken,
Location reminders, speed dialing, combining screenshots, shortening URLs.
downloading files, saving stuff to read later. I mean, it's a huge range of little tasks people are trying to automate.
So adding AI on top of that could really make the iPhone feel, I don't know, more efficient.
Potentially, yeah. Though the source did add the caveat that there's still some workaround shortcut creation needed. It's powerful, but maybe not totally effortless just yet.
Okay, so that's Apple pushing AI onto devices, into workflows. Let's switch gears completely now. Let's talk about the money side. OpenAI. The sources mention a pretty staggering claim about their revenue.
Hitting $10 billion in annual recurring revenue. That's ARR.
$10 billion. That's massive,
Yeah.
especially compared to last year.
Right. The context is it was around $5.5 billion last year, so almost doubling in a year. And getting to $10 billion roughly 2.5 years after ChatGPT launched, that speed is just unprecedented, really.
And where's that money coming from, sources said?
According to CNBC, it's a mix. Consumer products, so ChatGPT Plus subscriptions.
Okay.
ChatGPT business products for companies, and then their API, which, powers tons of other apps and services.
And the user base numbers are also huge.
Over 500 million weekly active users, they claim, and 3 million paying business customers. The reach is just enormous.
Incredible growth. But the key insight here isn't just the big number, is it? It's the pressure behind that number.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
To hit these targets, to stay ahead, the sources point out they're just burning through cash, billions.
On what specifically?
Talent, recruiting top researchers, which is fiercely competitive, and then just the sheer cost of infrastructure, the servers, the GPUs needed to train and run these huge AI systems. It's incredibly expensive.
Right. And while that $10 billion revenue figure is out there, the sources also mentioned a lack of transparency.
We don't really know their operating expenses or if they're actually profitable yet. We see the top line, the revenue, but not the bottom line, which matters a lot when your costs are in the billions.
So that push for revenue, it's driven by needing to feed that massive R&D and infrastructure machine.
And meet those super ambitious future targets, like the $125 billion revenue goal by 2029 that's been reported. The pressure is immense.
Okay, so we've got the tech push from Apple, the huge financial engine at OpenAI. But how is this all landing, on the ground, in the real world? Let's zoom out to the broader market corporate AI adoption, because some data from RAMP suggests things might be cooling off.
Yeah, plateauing maybe. This data comes from RAMP's AI index. They look at spending data card transactions, bill payments tagged to AI products across about 30,000 U.S. companies.
So it's one snapshot based on spending.
Exactly. And what they found was their index, which tracks the percentage of these companies spending on AI, kind of leveled off at 41% in May.
After growing for how long?
After nearly 10 straight months of growth. So that plateau is notable.
Interesting. And does it vary by company size?
It does. RAMP reported that by May, about 49% of large businesses in their sample had deployed AI in some form. For medium businesses, it was 44%, and for small companies, 37%.
Okay. But the sources mentioned some caveats with this RAMP data, right? It's not the whole picture.
Definitely. It's a sample, not the entire market. And it might miss spending if companies aren't buying clearly labeled AI products, or if they categorize the spend differently.
So, important context. But the trend seems interesting, especially when you pair it with other things we're seeing.
Right. That's the key insight. This leveling off seems to align with other evidence suggesting businesses are hitting real practical roadblocks. They're starting to see the limitations of current AI in actual deployment.
And we have actual examples of that in the sources too. Klarna.
Yeah, the payments company, they were all set to replace a bunch of customer support agents with AI.
Wrong with that.
But then they reportedly had to rehire people because the AI just wasn't cutting it. It led to lower quality customer service, apparently. A real collision with operational reality there.
And there was another stark data point from S&P Global.
Even more stark, yeah. They found the percentage of companies that are abandoning most of their generative AI pilot projects has jumped significantly.
How much?
It's up to 42%. Just last year, it was only 17%.
Wow. From 17% to 42% abandoning pilots? That feels like a major wake-up call.
It really does.
So if you put these things together, the RAMP data showing a potential plateau, the Klarna example, that S&P Global stat, the insight seems pretty clear, doesn't it?
Yeah, it seems like while the technology itself is moving incredibly fast and companies like OpenAI are making huge amounts of money, The reality of actually integrating this AI effectively into complex business operations, well, it's proving much harder and maybe less immediately impactful than the initial hype suggested.
Right. A gap between the flashy demos and the messy reality of making it work reliably day to day for actual customers and employees.
Absolutely, and suggests that maybe businesses are getting a bit more realistic about what today's AI can and importantly cannot do well right now.
Okay, so quite a journey we've taken here today. We covered a lot of ground.
We did. We started with Apple, really pushing AI features directly into the user experience onto the device, trying to make it seamless with things like live translation and those souped-up shortcuts.
Leveraging on-device processing for privacy.
Then we pivoted to OpenAI, looking at that massive revenue growth, the $10 billion ARR figure, driven by huge user numbers and API demand.
But also the immense financial pressures behind that growth, the need to fund the research and infrastructure.
Right. And then finally, we zoomed out to that broader adoption picture, the ramp data suggesting a possible plateau in corporate AI spending.
Backed up by those concerning signals like Klarna having to backtrack and that big jump in abandoned pilot projects reported by S&P Global.
Yeah, companies hitting those real-world limits.
So putting these different pieces together, these news items that might seem separate, they actually tell a larger, more nuanced story, don't they, about where AI is right now?
It's this story of incredibly rapid technological progress, this huge push, colliding with the friction and the complexities of real-world implementation. That seems to be the dynamic at play.
Absolutely. Which leads us nicely to a final thought, maybe a question for you, the listener, to chew on after hearing all this.
Okay.
Given this intense push from tech giants like Apple building these powerful new AI capabilities and the financial momentum we see with OpenAI, but also seeing businesses hitting walls, facing limitations, even pulling back from projects, what does this push and pull dynamic tell us? What does it suggest about the path AI needs to take next to really start delivering on that huge transformative promise we keep hearing about?